It was a long night for the Mountaineers in the cornfields in Kansas. We're going to talk about it here today on In the Gun.
Caution, this podcast contains bad jokes, optimism, and a healthy disdain for Pat Narduzzi. Watching it may increase your actual knowledge of actual football.
ITG.
All the pieces are in place for us to have a chance to win it all.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
There's Owen Schmitt in the building.
Like a runaway beer truck down the sidelines.
So where's he in? He in here, Jed Drenning?
I'm not much of an athlete.
The thing that's non-negotiable is playing hard and playing tough.
And Wesley, Valen, Uhler. You are in the gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of ITG. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That's the signal caller, Jed Drenning. We're going to be joined by the runaway beer truck himself, Owen Schmitt, here in just a few minutes, probably once we get to a break. But what a night it was for the Mountaineers. Just everything that could have went wrong felt like it went wrong. We're going to dive into our analysis of that game. 41-10, your final score, dropping to 2-2 on the season, 0-1 in Big 12 play. We're going to talk also a little bit about some injury situations, what's going on there. Jed's got some stories to tell from Kansas, and what a weekend he had, as well as we were chatting it up before we hopped on here. But before we do, we're going to go and get to our sponsors here, and thank you to every single one of them that helped make this thing possible.
If you haven't already, please make sure you're subscribed on YouTube to In the Gun and to ITG Clips. That's the best way to catch all our newest Mountaineer content hot off the press. And how about a quick shout out to J.R. Toothman and our friends at Toothman Ford? We all know that cars cost less in Grafton. Plus, let's give some love to Fortis and our good buddy Rick Lewis. For roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed, be sure to visit fortis.us.com. And a tip of the cap to Tim Johnston and his awesome crew at Johnston Equipment off I-79, exit 99 between Weston and Buchanan. And finally, the Book Exchange. For a limited time, when shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter promo code INTHEGUN20, that's 20, for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
And yes, be sure, again, to use that In the Gun 20 code in the physical brick and mortar store at Book Exchange. You'll be able to get your gear this week. Obviously, the 1965 throwback game is this Saturday against Utah. Be sure to stop in, get that nice baby blue WV. I don't have anything yet, but Jed, they've got some sweet gear. I don't know if you've checked any of it out yet, but I'm jealous for those that already purchased in advance.
I have an eye on one of those baby blues with the old logo on it. That's
Yeah.
the polos. Yeah, those are sweet. I do like those. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for people planning to attend on Saturday, because that's one thing that we're probably a little short or light on. Not a lot of folks have that throwback gear, so I'm not even sure what to anticipate. Has there been formal instruction from the school in terms of what to wear?
I don't know. I don't think so.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
even
haven't
the
heard
Coal
anything.
Rush. I mean, some people had some black WV gear before that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole new. This is kind of outside the spectrum for West Virginia, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how it all comes out together and
Yeah.
plays out. I've seen some interesting tweets online about how we should really go back to 1960s or maybe just 20, 30 years back and allowing folks to go back out and tailgate during halftime, let them come back in, smoking in the stadium, all that ridiculous crap that's going on. So. Yeah. Anyways, I can't put it off longer, Jed. We've got to get into it a little bit here. So we'll talk more about it with Big O. But injury-wise, not a good setup for West Virginia going into Game 2 of Big 12 play. Obviously, we had Tye Edwards out dealing with, appears, an hip injury since your Bowers got smacked around. Landon Livingston came out of the game. Just a lot of guys beaten up right now, and this team really needs a bye week to not only get healthy but figure some things out as well.
Yeah, last week it was a strange situation. You had Tye Edwards coming out of the pit game a little dinged up, but later in the week he's in a green jersey and he traveled, and you kind of got the sense that okay, they're going to try and make a go of this. We even went so far as on the Phil episode to have an over under on his rush attempts.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think he'd be on the shelf for the balance of the game. So that took me a little aback. He just again he traveled, but he wasn't ready. So they didn't roll with him, and they had to go to, I guess, Plan C, D, and E at this point. But that's how that unfolded. It was a physical game. You talked about some of the names, Landon. Uh, I'm cautiously optimistic with the results of the scan, based on what I heard
Good.
from a long-term prognosis standpoint. Again, who
It
am I?
didn't
I'm
look
no
good.
expert. I'll let them speak to that when they address it, formally here in the coming days. Rich will probably on his coach's show
Yeah.
tonight. A matter of fact, talk about it. But by the end of the game, you had Darian Lewis banged up. You had Braden Siders banged up, in addition to Landon Livingston. So yeah, you saw a heck of a pop on Sincere Bowers. So guys took some shots. And then, for that matter, guys delivered some shots. You had Fred Perry ejected for the targeting call. He'll be ready this week because it happened in the first half. But so, yeah, I mean, we're going to get into a little bit of the good. There's not a lot, but
It'll
there's a
be
lot of a
quick.
lot of
It'll be
bad coming
brief.
out of a game like that. Yeah, a lot of I struggled through the tape, and I was jotting some notes down as I did on both sides of the ball, and yeah, we had concerns coming into this game. There were the red flags, all the boxes were checked. Phil Steele talked about this. We talked about the danger of a hangover after a rivalry win, an emotionally charged win against Pitt. And then you're facing a team that checks all three boxes. Kansas was coming off a loss, check. They were at home, check. And they were coming off a bye, check. That's always a dangerous team to play. So they brought their best, and we obviously didn't. And quite frankly, we're just not good enough to not bring our best.
Yeah.
That's one thing Rich always preached to every team he ever coached, and that's certainly true of this team. And it wasn't a premium performance by any stretch. Once again, we'll get into some of the specifics, but the defense kept us hanging around probably longer than we should have been. But ultimately, the weight was too great, and the dam just broke.
Yeah, and like Phil said, I believe he went as far as saying it was the worst situation a team in the Big 12 will probably face all season, just because of the emotions for West Virginia, the emotions for Kansas, now sitting in that loss for 2 weeks. And then, oh boy, Jed, I texted you right during the game on Saturday. Well, you're going to get a ticked off Utah team now, too, after losing to Texas Tech the way they did. That was a close game until the end, the last like 7 or 8 minutes. Texas Tech had some weird things happen. They just kind of pulled away. But also, you're back at home where you're comfortable. You've got some things maybe going in terms of getting some guys back potentially. We'll have to see on that front, but just a long, long night. And like you said, we'll get into it here after the break when we get Big O back on. But you did have an interesting story from Kansas, and it seemed like you had quite the weekend, Jed. I always love these little behind the scenes stories that you provide, especially on the road. And this one got me chuckling a good bit. So let's hear it.
Well, I don't want to dive too deep into the deep end with the parking situation, but it started right from the top. I mean, the
Not
stadium renovation
ideal.
at Kansas. The stadium renovation at Kansas is half done. It's a multi-year project. They started with the home side, and they completely reframed and reinvented that home side, and it is an entirely new structure. On the exterior, on the interior, looks nothing like it did before. The old steel trap that it had always been. It has a little character to it. It even has a little bit of a soccer vibe to it. You look behind the end zone, you got the chairs, the seats, the colored seats, spelling the letter K for Kansas. I was almost looking for Ted Lasso to be sitting up there somewhere, but yeah, it has a little flavor to it now. Now the visitor side, those stands haven't been touched, but as soon as the season ends, they're going to raise those things, demolish those things, and rebuild from that side as well. And ultimately, I think their grand plan is to even enclose the far end down near the corner where our locker room is. So it will be a reinvented facility from soup to nuts. I mean, the bones are the same, and that's about it. But you can't really tell it's the same place once you're on the interior. And now the capacity was reduced to 42,000 because of the construction. And there were around 40 there. It was a good crowd. It was a good crowd. Like I said, all those new upper deck areas were full. And until late in the game, our side was full. So it was a good crowd. And they got Parents Week next week, so they're expecting another good crowd against Cincinnati. So, but it's down to 42. so they're working with some limited capacity until they do the rest of the expansion. But now one of the downsides to it is, from a broadcasting standpoint, uh, the play-by-play guys got a true Scroogey with this one. Because for all those who appreciate Tony Caridi and the yeoman's work that he does, appreciate him even more. Because if you would have looked at that angle that he was trying to call that game from in the far corner of one end zone, it was almost impossible. I mean, there were times that, and Tony's a creative, resourceful fellow, right? So there were times that he was using little tricks to figure out what yard line, because he was warned you could be way off from a depth perception standpoint with people that had called games there. So he even said, "Hey, be ready. You might need to go in the queue," which I did a couple of times. There were times I went in the queue with my mic and had our engineer just put me there, and that way I could speak to my engineer, and then he could tell Tony what yard line it was. There were a handful of times we had to do that just so I could help out. But Tony, the old pro that he is, didn't miss a beat. Found other ways to make things whole. Yeah, hats off to Tony and Dwight for calling a great game.
They didn't think about you guys when they did all that stuff, did they?
They didn't. And you know what? Here's what's crazy, Schuyler. As bad as we have it, the Kansas home booth is even worse. It's to the left of us.
Really?
It's further in the corner than we are. Yeah. And I'm like, This is just, they really, I mean, of course, TV has, premium booth space. They're up toward the middle. They think of them first and second and third. But yeah, the radio guys, we always get second, third, and fourth fiddle with these types of things. We're not a revenue source. The revenue sources migrate toward the middle with these renovations. We sure don't. But he did a good job of calling that. So it started off with this crazy parking fiasco that we dealt with. It was just, like I said, I don't even want to get into that. But we survived that, got inside the stadium in time to be on the air, overcame the angle of the booth. These are what do they call them? First world problems, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it was an interesting situation. It was much different than the booth that we were joking around through the game. We were in the booth at the booth because they call the stadium the booth, David Booth Memorial Stadium. But the facelift is underway, and you can already tell a significant difference once you're inside, even from the exterior. And it's kind of like at the end of the third quarter, everybody's doing their music thing with their light show and all this now. Well, they have the light structures designed in such a way that it's a wheat field. Big Daddy was pointing this out to me, where it kind of goes up and down like a wheat field blowing in the wind with red and blue lights. It looked like an episode of, TJ Hooker or something, the old William Shatner cop show. But they shut the lights down at the end of the third quarter. They played Kansas music, and here come the lights, and this is the blowing wheat field. But hey, evidence of effort. I mean, like I said, to look at what that place has undergone since we first went there in 2013, our first road trip to Lawrence, when it had an 8-lane track, like a high school around it. Yeah, it's come a long way from a facility, improvement standpoint.
Jed,
they're getting there.
Is this an accurate representation of the new stadium right here? The half shaded in horse.
Right? The other half is just as bad as it used to be. The other half is just as bad as it used to, including our locker room. Nothing's been touched on that side of the stadium. Everything is on the other side. They may leave the
locker room like that.
Maybe. Texas Tech didn't. Texas Tech took that 1850s Mexican prison that was our visiting locker room, and they renovated it and moved it. Now, the good news is it's lush and modern and has everything in it and spacious. The bad news is you got to walk about 4 miles to get to the field now.
So that's the caveat.
You earn it. Yeah, you earn it. It's in a much different place and much better, visitors' locker room. But who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I need to look at the future schedules, which are laid out for the next few years from a Big 12 standpoint in terms of opponents and venues, and see. I don't think we're due back there for a while.
Yeah.
So by the time we are back there, I'd say it's going to be complete or relatively complete. But it's underway, and you can tell the difference for sure. It desperately needed it.
Oh, yeah. It looked like just a boring slab of concrete on two sides, and that was about it. It looked like a high school. It looked like Wheeling Island Stadium, just a little bit bigger.
They threw $40K in there,
Yeah.
And much like a lot of these other stadiums, like I'll send a video out half hour before kickoff, and everybody's like, "Hey, there's nobody there." Everybody comes in that half an hour. Okay,
exactly.
It's very similar to Mountaineer Field. When I put those half hour before kickoff videos out, it's relatively empty. That's the half hour in which everybody enters the facility and sits down but yeah, so good crowd, good environment. I just wish that we would have we would have performed with more efficiency.
Yeah, certainly so. And I can agree with the bad views. I've got a love-hate relationship with Atlanta, and I'm sure Wes can probably attest to this too. The food at Atlanta, off the charts. It's great. Everything from the service, the things that you have available is it's nice. Um, you have little screens in front of you that have the stats and everything. You don't get that anywhere else, at least that I've been to. But my gosh, they put you in the freaking back corner of the end zone, and you're behind a pylon. You can barely see the other side of the field. It's a mess. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I guess the food makes up for it. But maybe I don't know if there's a Atlanta. No, the two neutral sites are both in Charlotte. I was going to say maybe there's a game in Atlanta coming up, but that's both in Charlotte.
Coming up, yeah. Good to be home. Coming up, good to be home.
Yep. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And on the other side, we're going to hopefully get Big O in here and break down what the hell happened in Lawrence and then try and turn this page so we don't have to ever talk about this again right here on In the Gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready. 0% financing available for up to 84 months on select models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their two locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun here, Schuyler Callihan, Jed Drenning, now joined by the runaway beer truck down the sideline, Owen Schmitt. Yes, sir. We've got to get Big O's thoughts on this loss, of course, and Jed's going to get deep into the weeds with this. So, let's start with you first, so we can allow Jed to really dive into the film here and some of his notes. But just your initial takeaways from this game, what you expected going into it, obviously was probably not what ended up being. So, what was your thoughts from this loss?
Well, I'll go out first and foremost to say I did pick WVU in rushing. That was kind of before
you did.
I really knew the questionable aspect of what was going on with our running back room. A little disheartened to hear that I had, my colorful statement before we got on air, just because I wanted to keep it PG and, maybe I'll join Whitey and Reed and kind of vent there if I need to at this point. But no, the first quarter And then, like, 4 minutes left in the second quarter, I thought, hey, this is going to be a really good game. And then it was like Schmidt hit the fan, dude. It just did not roll well for us. And then, anytime, oh man, it was a nightmare. It was the All Black. It was a nightmare, dude. Their stadium was rocking. They were making some plays. A lot of it seemed like broken down plays and coverage, like guys just wide open. Took advantage of some new guys we had on the field. RB group, late in the fourth quarter, sort of came through with the QBs. Once we started kind of doing that a little bit offensively, if you wanted to call that a spark at all. Ollie Straw, I thought, really helped us the best he could in the situation we had,
You got his workout.
Trying to turn the field over for us. But, hey, Kansas is a good football team. I think we made them look a little bit better than they really are. I'm not taking away that they're not a good football team, but I think we got exposed some, and injuries suck. I mean, we're getting, like, and I said too, talking earlier, Fred going out, that's a major key to your defense. That's the heart and soul, really, and that stunk. You know what I mean? You know, he laid a good lick on him, and homeboy acted like he was hurt, but he's back the next play. Whatever. I really wish he would have piped him after that happened. You know what I mean? But it was legit. I mean, I get it. It's hard to, like Jed was saying earlier when we were off air, it's hard to turn the dog off, dude. It's hard. You know what I mean? When you play with that much passion and intensity, sometimes the game gets the best of you. We hopefully going forward he can learn from this and how does that work now, Jed? Do we get him? He's out for that game and then, huh?
It depends what half. It happened in the first half, so he missed the rest of that game. Now he's back this week.
Okay, so is it just for the game usually?
Unless it's the second half.
Then he misses the first half of the following game.
Okay, cool. All right, so
he's back.
At least we can get
week.
that back this week because we're gonna need it. But that's my initial thought. Run game was trash. O-line, man, so many. I don't know what. I don't. Was it calls? Was it protection? It seemed like somebody had his head up, up his rear end, and just didn't really. Well, I mean, maybe they. I don't know, Jed. I wasn't there. Was the crowd that intense where they should have been intimidated from last week? Were they?
It wasn't overwhelming. It was a really good college football crowd. It's just what it was. It was.
I don't know. I
don't think they took over the game or anything, but it was a good 40,000 into the game, dialed up. They were wired in. It wasn't a difference in the game, but it was a good environment for a college football game. Yeah.
Yeah. It just that was unfortunate. I thought, like I said, defense fought hard. We just there's some obviously missed tackles and some stuff we gotta correct, man. I mean, look, we got last week out of the way. That was a big thing for us, and this week, Kansas really came to play, and we just didn't. We didn't. The injuries, you could tell, hurt us. Sometimes you gotta, I don't care who takes offense to this. Sometimes you gotta play hurt. I mean, sometimes you gotta play hurt. You gotta push through it. You gotta persevere. That's part of the hard edge. Whoever needs to hear that. That's no disrespect to anyone. It's just, that's my opinion. Okay. So there's my 2 cents, Schuyler. I rambled.
Yeah.
That was the
good.
beer truck ramble.
I love it. So yeah, and honestly, I mean, you hit on just about everything there that I share the same feelings, and I'm gonna unfortunately try to rewatch that thing tonight, if not bright and early tomorrow morning, and take my notes for next week. But Jed, to me, without going back and watching it, I know we talked about the situation ad nauseum almost with Kansas in their situation, coming off the loss, off the bye at home, getting a chance to tweak some things. West Virginia coming off the emotional win, but to me, it just felt like that the situation wasn't the root of the issue. The issues were much deeper than just the situation.
Well, where will we start? The situation was going to be supremely difficult. We knew that coming in, and we didn't make life easier for ourselves by any stretch. We like to say that we have, I've called this defense how many times through 3 games and now through 4, a grab them by the collar defense. Okay, as the offense tries to sort itself out, the defense grabs them by the collar. We've seen them do it each week and say, "Hey, where do you think you're going? You're not separating. Our offense needs to figure this out." And they did it once again for the balance of about 27 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 10-3 game, and it felt like it was a 24-0 game, to be honest with you, because they had a tilted, a field position advantage that was crazy for the balance of the first half, to the point that when it was 10-3, I don't think they had to be feeling very good about that score. They had to be feeling, wow, we wasted a lot of opportunities with this great field position. But our defense kept swelling up and making the plays when they had to. Kansas is a team that starts really fast. They script well to start the game. They follow that script efficiently. Sure enough, boom, they get the ball to start the game. They're up 7-0. We blow a coverage. But hats off to Kansas. That's part of what they do is they force you into missed assignments. They force you into miscommunication with all that movement and eye candy and resetting the table and changing the strength. We talked about that last week so much that was going to be critical. You have to direct traffic appropriately. The reason offenses do that, okay, they're not in a hurry. They're very plodding. They're very methodical. It takes them a while to snap the football because they reset the table so much on each play. What they're trying to do is change your assignment 2 or 3 times as a defender on each play and hope that somebody doesn't stay up to pace and misses one of those change 2 or 3 assignments and you blow a coverage or you miss a fit. And sure enough, you're going to get some of that. So one of the things that stood out to me, guys, we had 15 missed tackles. But here's the thing with that. 14 of those were categorized as missed tackles forced. That's Kansas making a play. That's not just us not doing something in space that we otherwise should. 10 of them was Sean Williams. Now, they've struggled to run the football. They wanted to involve and activate Jalen Daniels more. We suspected that going in, and sure enough, they did. Well, the other thing they did was they went away from Daniel Highshaw, the battle-tested veteran, and went to the transfer with Sean Williams, and he added that spark that they needed. It was kind of like what we did with Tye Edwards last week against Pitt. LaShawn Williams played a similar role against West Virginia to what Tye Edwards played against Pitt. So I think there's a parallel there. But when you're breaking this thing down, let's start, I guess, on the offensive side of the football. I've got my notes on my phone. There's no rhyme or reason or structure really to this. I'm just loosely taking notes as I go through some things. One of the things that stood out to me, I chased down a metric because as I'm watching tape, it felt like they played a lot with 2 heavy bodies, 2 true D linemen down at the point of attack on the interior. And then they had 2 wide edge rushers, sometimes wide nines, and they would outflank us in the run game. They would out leverage us. So they had those 2. And going into the game, from a configuration standpoint, DK McDonald, their D coordinator, he used that 2 down lineman set more than most around the country. But he dialed it up once again against us. One of the things they changed against us was they're not a big pressure team. I mean, he only blitzes the quarterback on average about 1 out of every 5 dropbacks. But against Nico, 1 out of every 2. 50% of the time Nico dropped back, they were bringing an extra resource. Yeah.
Jed, that's something I noticed heavily. Like it seemed they would bring a lot of 4-man pressure, and we just didn't have an answer for it.
Guys,
well, that's just it, Owen. That's one of the things I was going to say. They were impacting plays without even making tackles. Like when you look at the 48 tackles their defense was credited with, those big-bodied interior D linemen only accounted for 6 of them. That group on the interior. So they were impacting a bunch of plays without even making the tackle. spilling it, flushing it, forcing it to other players. Most of the players were made by second and third level defenders, most of the tackles, because of the impact those guys were having right there on the interior. They thought they were obviously confident they could win that battle on the interior between the B gaps, especially in the A gaps, and make our life difficult when we were trying to run the football and then outflank us other than that. And they did a lot of that. But let's continue through here. Okay, there's that blitz rate. Safety dropped inside zone to make a play. Again, that's when I start seeing these types of things and the safeties become activated so quickly. I'm like, that's because you're not punishing them downfield. So it's like chicken or the egg. You got to max protect to try and make a play downfield. But when you do that, somebody has to make a play and win a 50-50 ball. And we haven't had a lot of opportunities to do that, sometimes because the coverage couldn't hold up, sometimes because the play wasn't there, whatever the case might be. But you do see the safeties being activated in the run game, which makes it even more difficult. Now it's not even a 5-on-5 proposition. Now it's 6-on-5 in favor of the defense, or even 7-on-6 if we got a tight end, depending on what they're doing. When I saw that safety activate, we ran an inside zone, Owen, and he flew downhill. He buzzes that gap, boom, makes a play. Well, the next snap, guess what Rich does? He dials up an RPO off that inside zone look. And the RPO conflict defender that the quarterback's reading, Nico was looking at that same safety when you RPO that. The guy flew downhill. You remember the catch that Justin Smith-Brown made on the slant by our boundary? That was the next play. So we were trying to complement what they were trying to take away. It's just this becomes difficult at a very high level when you don't get any push and you don't get a lot of movement.
Yeah.
And that's what was starting to happen from an early standpoint. Again, I'm looking at different plays here. I see the tight end and the tackle pull in space. Neither one of them made much contact. They tried and just missed. So that's two free runners defensively. Going to snuff out that play, and they did. We had a 3rd and 10. We ID'd a stunt, but Kansas, despite us IDing it, and when I say stunt, just envision, the defensive end peeling inside and the defensive tackle peeling outside to try and stress the offensive line. Well, we passed that off appropriately, but they still got push, and they pushed the pocket into Nico's lap and absolutely impacted the throw. Despite the fact we ID'd it, you don't just got to ID it, you got to win it. You got to ID it and then hold up to secure a pocket and allow your quarterback to get rid of it. Well, there were times that wasn't happening. We ran a counter from inside the 10 to get us out of the hole when we were trapped deep one of those many times in the first half. This was a situation when I'm watching that, I saw the guard and I saw the tight end pull. They both made secure blocks. We picked up a chunk, 5, 6, we're out of the hole. That's what this should look like. It's just the element of consistency wasn't there. We weren't getting enough wins like that. There weren't as many pluses as there were minuses on a lot of those types of things. We were close on a couple other RPOs, but sometimes what would happen, the KU defensive backs would knock our receivers off the route. In other words, collision them just enough to impact and mess up the timing. Otherwise, we would have had a couple more plays there. There were times that we tried the inside zone, which is one of the bread and butters of this offense. It's not going to happen without any push. You got to have some kind of push and movement. That's what zone blocking is all about. Nico, in one situation, had a curl, but ended up taking off. This was, if he had allowed the curl to develop, it was going to come open. But by this point in the game, I think Nico's clock was impacted because he was under such duress so often, so early. And so he wasn't as inclined to give that curl as much time to develop. And he took off. There was a gap that he saw open, but it closed quickly with the backer and he only picked up a couple. There was a 3rd and 13. We went empty. They were in a 4-man rush. They twisted. The defensive end came in clean as a whistle. We didn't pass it off this time. Remember earlier I said we ID'd it and passed it off? We didn't even pass it off. And the DN came crashing in on Nico, and the other DN got a hand up and tipped the football, so the play had no chance. On the jet sweep, there was one jet sweep.
That's called a push in.
I'm trying to remember who the tight end was, Owen. On this jet sweep, it might have been Grayson Barnes. He had a good block in space, but in this case, the running back, because the jet sweep was to the slot in motion, so the running back was also a lead blocker on the perimeter. The running back got outflanked on his block, and the pulling guard threw a no-hitter. So here come 2 more defenders. Despite the fact our tight end made the play, the other 2 did not. So this was kind of what was stacking up. There was always an issue or 2. Some guys are making plays, but when there's guys that aren't, that's going to come up and bite you. Here's a 3rd and 4, empty with a tight end set. We had an attached tight end in this situation. They brought a 5-man blitz. We ID'd it. We had good protection. Grayson Barnes, in this instance, stayed in pass pro and had good technique, and he held up in pass protection. The offensive line did a good job passing things off and communicating. The linebacker dropped. Nico overthrew it to through the seam to Cam Vaughn. I probably should have put a little more air on. Again, Nico at this point in the game, his clock is directly impacted. So it's more difficult to securely. He's expecting to get hit even on the plays that he's not, and you got to somehow find a way to shake free of that. But this time the pass protection held up against this 5-man pressure, and we had a chance at a play but didn't make it click. We ran Q draw, quarterback draw, had a bit of a hole. But the cutback and on the cutback, but they sealed it very quickly, made the play. Again, that's a lack of tremendous push. The more push you have, the more bodies are moved, the more things are dislodged, and the more daylight you see, and you have opportunities. We ran a counter into the boundary. This is a situation we have another whiff, and in addition to the whiff on the puller, with the gap action into the boundary, they bring a corner blitz, and so we're really outnumbered. Negative yardage play. I mean, you could alert that thing to the uncovered receiver and hit him very quickly. It's a tough backside RPO, but they outnumbered us. If you don't whiff, now you just got to make a play against that unblocked corner. We used to call that a smoke, that boundary corner coming. We had a situation where we had tight ends in double wing. We went to that toss sweep that we had a lot of success with against Pitt with Sincere Bowers. Had a decent game, probably could have had more, but they sealed it more quickly than you would expect. What should have been, again, because that safety was so active, he was so quickly triggered downhill. What should have been a big play turned out to be a gain of like 3 because the safety just wasn't scared of the vertical pass game. These things are all interconnected. We max protected at one point and tried to throw a 3-man route. Seeing the protection issues, Rich is trying to find different ways to help the O-line out. One way to do it is you move the launch point, you sprint Nico out, you sprint the quarterbacks out, which he did. But the problem with that is it condenses the field, it condenses the reads. So you got to do just enough of that to keep them off balance. But there's other things you got to try to help the O-line out. Max protection, keeping extra blockers in. So he did that, went just with a 3-man route. And the KU edge rusher defeated our tight end. Then on the just defeat our tight end, got right past the running back. So it was a 2-for-1. He smoked both of them. And he was right in Nico's face, almost like he was unblocked. When in fact, we had 2 potential blockers assigned to him, both of them. It was a free runner, and that was a turnstile play. They both threw lookout blocks, and Nico just couldn't look out. And here he comes right in his face, and his grill forced him to throw it early, hit Nico's, he's releasing it. These are just some of the things on the offensive side that, again, there's not high points, there's low points, but some of the things I'm going to spare you from most of it. It wasn't a fun thing to go through and analyze and watch. But it's similar on the defensive side and even from the transition units. I mean, one of the things that Rich talked about after the game was he said, look, he hasn't given up a lot of kickoff returns for a score in his career. And when that happens, that's truly disheartening. That's truly disheartening. I mean, the reasons that tends to happen, and I'll promise you, Owen, you and I both know Pat Kirkland and that special teams crew. That's not going to sit well with them. They're going to want to make that right because you got some really talented coaches working with those units. On the offensive side, that's kind of what I saw. I'll get some of your guys' thoughts, and we'll spin the wheel over to the defensive side. But you got anything you want to ask about grades or anything else? Just let me know. What are you thinking?
I know I took a glance at some of the PFF grades, and it did support a lot of what I thought. And the right side of that offensive line, I mean, not trying to single any part of it out because I think every link in that chain up front has had its leaks at some point in pretty much every game. The right side has been problematic in my opinion. I don't know. Again, we talked about this. I don't know if it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, that at some point, when do you make the call to rotate in other guys? But then, like as Jed also mentioned, the fact that they continue to roll with these 5 may show you how far away or the lack of trust that they have in those number 2s. How close are they? We don't know. Now, Xavier Bosley, maybe he's somebody that could be rotated in at some point. He's been injured for the first couple of games. He came off the injury report on, I think it was game day. So I don't know if we saw him, Jed, but he's somebody that could maybe get into some action. Josh Isosa, which we've seen in the heavy package. So there's a possibility we get some new blood up there, but at some point I feel like you're going to have to make that call. And two, like, look, I know you want to give your offense the best chance to succeed, but if it gets to a point where you know you're just going to have offensive line struggles, I mean, I hate to sound like the uneducated person in the room, but wouldn't it just be smarter to just go ahead and say, hey, let's play the young guys anyways, because if they're going to struggle, at least they're gaining experience. Now, maybe that's something we have that discussion in November, but I don't know. What do you think, Big O?
Like I said, we lose Livingston. Jed, is he out for good? Is the ankle?
No, they'll. I don't think they'll make. Again, I'm reluctant usually to speculate on these things, but I'm cautiously optimistic about what we're going to hear at Rich's coaching show. So I'm sure he'll have an update. But yeah.
Okay. Kind of what both of you talked about. I just felt right guard we really struggled. Like I said, I don't know if it was because we weren't coming off, if we were just, I don't know. I don't know if the communication or what's going on as far as rotating guys in and out. I'll go back to the start of right before the season when I was talking about this. This is going to be very hard for the O-line. It's really dependent on how quick they pick this stuff up, because they ultimately are the first line of defense. As cliche as you want to get with, all right, we got to win it up front. You know what I mean? I mean, that is what has to happen. You have to be solid up front to get any sort of plays off. I mean, you can tell Nico he's ready to get hit every time.
Yeah,
He doesn't know
prepared.
where it's coming from. And that's tough. That's tough as a player. I don't care how tough you are. I mean, you can get up every time. You're still going to flinch. You know what I mean? A guy who doesn't flinch, and maybe he'll earn that hard edge after the year dealing with what he's dealing with. But there needs to be some adjustments made. Some guys maybe bringing up, but I'm with you 100%. I can feel that in my head. If we're not making corrections, maybe the guys at the 2 spot are just so far behind. It would be counterproductive.
Yeah.
But until we get this,
understand the dynamic. You're okay. You're and Owen, you've been involved in this. You understand how this works. You're sitting here averaging, a little under 5.6 yards per play, which is tied for 14th in the Big 12 offensively. So obviously, all hands are on deck and all possibilities are open. So what happens is you have an open competition at every position every week. And what you're telling the kids, if you show me I can trust you this week more than I can trust him, I'll make a move. But if you don't, I won't. So the end result
Jed,
you're seeing is who they trust.
And I get that 100%. Like, I know that's what's happening. So
yep.
I know, like, the guy who's there obviously was the guy throughout the week who showed the most promise.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch, in my opinion, a 4-down front beating a 5-down front's butt because we can't come off of, a simple cross exchange on the line. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to say, oh, it's simple, but in rudimentary, as far as O-line play goes, this isn't like the first year that they started crossing stunts up front. You know what I mean? And these, I mean, they're doing this stuff in high school now. Like, these aren't like completely crazy tech. In my opinion, it's a lot of technique that's getting missed out on because guys are getting too far ahead of themselves, too aggressive when they know they need to come back if a guy does come back. So, these are some, small technique things I think maybe that need fixed as well. You don't want to get too extended out on that stuff, otherwise you can't come back. And so hey,
if you're to line up individually 5 different offensive linemen one at a time in a closet against a defensive lineman and just say, don't let this guy by you, that's a completely different challenge and a much more manageable challenge than saying, all right, they got 4, Where are they going? Do you got this one, or is your guy next to you that you've hardly played with got that one? You don't have
Yeah.
any. You don't understand each other's shorthand language, but you're trying to figure out who's he got, who you got. It's not as simple as that's my guy and I'm blocking. It's like so.
Right.
That's the issue. Often comes up there, and just imagine if you're watching that O line struggle the way we sometimes have. You're thinking like, and this is the group that showed me through the week I could trust them.
Yeah.
Imagine what the group that hasn't shown me that might look like.
Well, that's what I mean. I just, it's we're close, but there's like I said, fundamentally, we're missing some things in key moments where those should be really routine pickups for us. You should never get beat by 4. You should
when they're bringing 4 and they're beating you. You know what else the quarterback's dealing with? 7 defenders dropping
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
and he's trying to read flooded zones with 4 men creating havoc in the pocket.
Yeah,
you should have it one way or the other, not both.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I know.
You
and
outnumber
that's what
the
sucks for
O-line to
Nico.
bring pressure because you have fewer back end defenders. The quarterback understands that, and he'll make that trade off. But it's not supposed to be you outnumber him in coverage and you pressure him. You know.
Yeah.
So the
can't
identification
win like that.
piece has to be there. That's the piece you see. Again, you got the run game column, you got the pass game column. The pass game column, do I see guys getting beat? There's times, of course, I do. I just itemized a few with one defender, one edge rusher beating both a tight end and a back. That's not even part of the O-line. But it's an ID thing as much as anything. Those 5 guys that you're most comfortable with communicating among 5 voices are the 5 that you're most comfortable with because they've shown it in practice the most. And those are the ones that are still having snafus, missed assignments, free runners, and they're communicating better than the others.
Yeah.
So you got to rep this one way or the other. You got to rep this out. It's not a matter of just, well, Bobby Johnson's playing backup, right guard or left tackle, and he's just a super stud blocker. Put him in there and he'll just super stud block. Well, how's he going to communicate with the other 4?
Yeah.
That's what matters. It all starts with that. It doesn't matter what he can physically do until he can communicate at the highest level in the room with the others. That's what O-line coaches are always tasked with that. And they always have to strike that balance. And at times like this, when you're trying to find yourself, I think back to 2019 with that historically abysmal West Virginia offensive line we had then. We had fewer rushing yards and yards per carry than at any point during the 1960s. And think about that, guys. We had an NFL left tackle in that group with Colton McKivitz, And I remember thinking Matt Brown is trying to work his way through this and make the most of it and rep it out and let these guys understand each other and miss fewer assignments. And the more you know the guy next to you, the fewer assignments are missed. And it feels similar to that struggle. But maybe the difference being I don't see a Colton McKivitz in this room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
that's the
talent's
problem.
just not there.
And again, at some point, I feel like that might be a November thing where if you are what you are at that point and you're still missing the same assignments and you're still missing, you're like Rich says all the times, if you're making the same repeated mistakes over and over and over and we're in games 8, 9, 10, then maybe that's when you make the change and you try at least to see what Josh Isoso or Xavier Bosley or Mikael Clay, whoever, get them an opportunity. But I mean, we are still 4 games in. It's a third of the way through the season. We're 1 game in a Big 12 play. Well, things can change. But like you said, for Nico, it sucks because when he gets average time, and I've said this a million times, he can operate. He's fine. He can be successful in this offense. He doesn't need a top 4 offensive line in the Big 12 to be a successful quarterback in this offense. He just doesn't. And he's shown that. He did it against the backyard brawl. If you go back and watch the last 2 drives of the backyard brawl, it's not like the offensive line just became the best O-line in the Big 12 in those last 2 drives. They just did enough to give him enough time to make those decisions, and you saw what happened. He went 9 of 11.
What we know is those evaluating the live reps in practice every day with these kids on the roster. What Rich is going to roll out next Saturday against Utah are 11 guys that he, for one reason, rolls them out. He thinks those are the 11 that give him the best chance to beat Utah, period. Yep. He's evaluated every snap. So is Coach McNell. So is every assistant coach. So is Travis Trickett. And after their evaluation of every single live snap, including the hundreds we never see, they have determined our best, most optimal chance to beat the Utah Utes are these 11 guys, including these 5 guys. That's where the answer comes from. So it's kind of like we get a peek into it, but that's all game day is a peek.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at 60 live snaps, compare that to all the other reps throughout the course of the week. And they're back there making the sausage. And as you're making the sausage, it can be pretty ugly.
Oh,
And
dude, I
that
get
was the
that.
case, you know.
I'm not bashing anybody. I just
No, I got it.
knew
I got you. No,
I
you're
knew
right.
from the start, look, it's going to be hard for this O-line to gel in, a matter of games.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, like Schuyler said, I'd rather it be game, uh, you know, 4 or 5 or 6, not, 9 or 10. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yeah.
we got no time left. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and here's the thing too. Uh, uh, as a fan now, hey man, you're getting paid too. Okay, so don't be like, I'm just telling you, you're getting money for this. So I mean,
Sure.
it ain't getting no easier. The older and next level you get to, if you get the chance to go there. So
Yeah. When you
Well,
think back to 2019, that was a different game. I mean, you had to
oh,
build through recruiting, retain talent, bringing Zach Frazier in as a freshman and starting him in 2020. And then each year adding another piece or two. That game's over. Now what you have to do is in the course of one off season, and that's not coming until the end of the season, address what you might need to address. But in the meantime, here's what you got. You were hired in the
yeah.
11th hour. You had a little bit of time in December. You had speed dating and after the April portal window, and here you are. You got 81 new faces, and you got to figure it out, just like you had to figure it out with 60 some new faces at Jack State last year. And that's what you're trying to do. The acquisitions are over. It's
yeah.
not like you can go make a trade, for the second week in October or something. There's no trade deadline. It's over. Okay.
Can't go
So you got to
scoop somebody
figure
off
out
the
with what you
practice
got on the
squad.
roster. Yeah.
Yeah.
You better be at a point where all you need is in the room because that's all you got.
Yeah.
And I do think that Rich believes that. He tells the team that what we need is in this room. And that's kind of where we're at with it. But you have
Well,
to
what you
get
need
through
is
this.
always in the room.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. It don't matter who you got. I mean, look, man, if people want to say, well, every year these kids are getting bigger, faster, and stronger. Well, back in 2003, that's all we had in the room. And people can say, well, after the fact, oh man, you guys had Pat White and this and that. Well, guess what? Those people threw them away like they were nobodies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so,
Island of
and what I
misfit
mean is
toys.
like, you got to become somebody at some point.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, that's what it is. Like you have to become him. Not he ain't gonna become you. You have to do that. So, and I know the guys that we got coaching, in my opinion, are guys that understand that and they know how to do that. It's just a matter of how does it connect from the player's brain to his body? You know what I'm saying? Like we got to get two on
Heart
the same page.
and heart and heart.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll have to get Coach Steve Slayton in here next week to see what he's seen in these running backs. I had to get a shot at Pat Narduzzi at some point throughout the night.
Yeah, dude, we need to.
But I guess let's spin it over to defense before we get out of here. Jed, is there anything that you saw on that side? I know we talked about it a little bit, but there are obviously some things that they gave up. It wasn't a picture perfect night, but they did for the most part keep them in the game as best as they could before things just kind of went haywire. But anything defensively you wanted to hit on before we got out of here?
We talked about the missed tackles. Like I said, 15. Most of those were forced. Either way, you had to get that number down to single digits. You got to remember this was a 10-3 game with the defense playing the balance of the first half with its back to the wall with 3 minutes to go in the first half, and that's when the dam broke.
Yep.
So at some point, the strain becomes too much, and Kansas is going to make some plays, and that's ultimately what happened. One of the things that we once again learned, we said this about Parker Navarro, and Jalen Daniels is Parker Navarro with some strength. He has that kind of twitch, but he's also strong. You got to keep
Jalen Daniels is a good-looking athlete.
Yeah, and he has been for 6 years. You got to keep contained when you pressure a guy like that. I mean, when he was making his plays, especially when you have some version of man coverage downfield, and you twist or you stunt to get a pressure on him. That second level evaporates quickly, and he's just running in space, much like Garrett often did against these man-free coverages and things of that nature before. But you got to keep contained. We covered well downfield. We had a down and distance situation that was in our favor, and the next thing you know, despite the fact that we're being sticky on the back end, we miss on the twist. He steps up, takes off, picks up 15. That's the Fred Perry hit that got him ejected. But 15-yard run. There's more athletic quarterbacks to come. This league's populated by a bunch of them. So you better adjust and become more efficient at making those plays against those guys. And it's easy to say that because it's like I always tell people, like, they're like, "Hey, athletic quarterbacks hurt us," and I'm like, I study this a lot. And most athletic quarterbacks who are high-level players like Jaden Daniels typically hurt 9 or 10 out of the 12 teams they play. So there's very few teams they don't hurt. Yeah. So there's 9 or 10 fan bases out there saying athletic quarterbacks hurt us. They hurt most teams, okay, with a couple exceptions. It's just a matter of degree, right? But yeah, keep containing those pressures. Once again, we talked about this a bit, but our corners are becoming a strength of our defense. We got 3 of them that I really think can play. From Coates to Chambers to Scruggs. I think all 3 of those guys can play and contribute. That play that Michael Coates made in front of our bench in the red zone, that was a high-level pass breakup when they tried to go to that skinny post for the touchdown right in front of our bench. I mean, that was a high-level play by a high-level defensive back. We'll have some fun later on with some of the numbers, maybe later in the week, that from how often those 3 have been targeted, what they've done when they were targeted, things of that nature. But they're all 3 playing really sticky football. They've been good additions for us. Looking at the 4th and 2 situation early in the game that they scored on the 40-yard play, blown coverage. Once again, we had a handful of those. When they're going to reset the table and give you so many different looks, they had trips to the field with inside motion to that post corner, and then they send the tight end to the flat. Here comes the Z, the outside receiver, to the wide side of the field. He settles in on an option route. Meanwhile, we had a middle backer and a safety fly to the flat with the tight end, and there's nobody on that Z. Yep. So, boom, he catches it and takes off, peels for 40 yards, blown coverage. That's why Kansas does what they do. They might do it 60 times and catch you 4 or 5 times in blown coverages like that and make plays when they do. That's how they're built offensively. You just have to communicate better, be more familiar with the game plan, watch more tape. I mean, those are all the things you got to do if you want to get better. The coaches can't make you come in and mandate tape study beyond the 20-hour rule. So if you want to be great,
hey, Jed,
you got to do it on your own. Yeah.
Jed, on that too, like I mean, that is so true. I say, hey, are we not getting enough? But you as a player have to understand you are a professional now. You have to do that. Like you have to.
Part of the job description, baby.
Coach should not be telling you, hey man, you like I get it. We just watch film, but like you really need to watch an extra hour a day or work on a skill or something. Like I tell our high school players that I work with all the time, look, man, everybody does summer workouts. Everybody does practice. That's what the average player does. If you want to be great, you might go run 20 hills every day after practice. You might go catch 50 balls after practice. You might go watch it. I just had a conversation. I hate to get sidetracked with this, and I'm sorry, but Greenbrier West's team this year versus the team we went to the state championship with. Never had to tell those guys to run hills. They ran them before and after practice. Never had to tell those guys to watch film. They watched hours of it during the week. This year, none of them guys are like, and they're like, they don't even watch film. They think it's like, well, we watched it on Monday as a team. No, man, you go find it. Good players, they get it. I mean, I don't know, great players or whatever, but you better be doing the extra because that's the only way you succeed. If you want to be average,
on the floor.
Yeah,
everybody's on the floor. You better be reaching for the ceiling.
Yeah,
I mean, that's when I played. That's one of the things I always told myself. And I told my coaches, I was like, look, I'm not going to be the strongest arm guy out there. You know, God didn't give me John Elway's bazooka. He didn't give me Michael Vick's speed for sure. But there's two things that I can control. And those two things just happen to be what make you the best quarterback you can be. I can be the toughest some bitch out there, and I can be the smartest dude out there.
Yep.
I can control both those things. No one will study more film than me. Nobody will study more personnel than me. Nobody. I can control that. That's a variable that I myself decide entirely. And I can also respond to any kind of physicality or situation, the toughness needed, because I know the rest of the offense is looking at you. Hell, when your O-line sees you get the hell knocked out of you and jump up in a D lineman's face, they love it. So you better be
absolutely.
That's what you do. So you can control those things. So yeah, it's a floor and ceiling conversation. And now that you're even before you're getting paid, I mean, yes, of course that adds to it. But come on, do you want to be great or not? You know, money be damned. Do you want to be great? Okay, I don't care if what you're getting paid or not getting paid. Pride should carry the day. But yeah, we blow that coverage on the 4th and 2. They score. There were a handful of times we did that. There was a 3rd and 5 situation. This is where it gets frustrating. We had them outnumbered 4-3. They had trips to the field, and Jalen Daniels wanted to go to a quick screen to get the conversion, and we had the right call on. And so he spills out of the pocket, and we had two guys bearing down on him, and both of them missed. He was just an athlete. Mm-hmm. He made a play in space. See, that's what's frustrating against these types of guys. Okay, if you understand that X amount of times a game that's going to happen, then you better do everything else right. Okay. If you want to compensate for the times you can't necessarily do as much to stop those magic plays by these magician quarterbacks, then you better do everything else right and elevate your game in other areas. And that's the way I look at that. But let's talk about, Owen, you and I talked about before we came on the air. You had the backside wheel for the touchdown. It was a time capsule worthy play dialed up by Kansas and their offensive staff. They did a great job.
Play.
We talk about how often they reset the table. So here's what happens. This was all off, first of all, a triple option look to the wide side of the field. They showed triple option to the wide side of the field, which really gets your eyes activated defensively to start with. You want to get the defensive attention, show triple option, okay? It's not just a standard play action. Triple option's a whole different animal, especially to space like they were showing it. So Kansas shifted their tight ends weak, both of them, and then traded one of them to the strong side of the field to the wide side. Then they motioned their slot from the slot and the wide side of the field to split backs next to the quarterback. Okay, so the slot motions to Jalen Daniels' right. The running back is on Jalen Daniels' left, LaShawn Williams. So on the snap, what ends up happening, the running back to his left slips to the boundary. Okay, now here's the most insidious part of what he did. If you watch our edge rusher to that side, Jamori Robinson, okay, to his credit, his eyes were activated and expecting something to threaten his flat to that side. It wasn't like he was just hell-bent for leather, bearing down on the quarterback. He was kind of trying to see what was going to happen there. So as he's keeping his eye on things, the tackle shuffles with him and he shuffles out. Just enough space is created. Here's where it got sneaky. That running back slipped through the B gap. So he didn't even break contain around the edge where you'd easily see him. He slips to the widened B gap that's now created by that tackle and Jamori Robinson tussling there, slips to the B gap. Now, all of a sudden, Jamori Robinson's automatically in a trail position. We got a safety up high in Chambers that sees the tight end threatening that seam. So he matches off on that seam. Now you're isolated in coverage up that rail with Jamori Robinson. And again, it's not because Jamori Robinson completely blew a gasket. He just got out leveraged because that kid slipped through B gap, made a smart football play on a great call. And once he out leveraged him, Jamori Robinson's not going to win that foot race against that running back.
No.
I mean, even if they're even Steven, he's going to win that. But he got an edge because he slipped through that B gap. So what ends up happening is boom. Next thing you know, that B gap is between the guard and the tackle. The tackle expanded with Jamori, and the running back slips in front of Jalen Daniels. Now, remember, Jalen Daniels is showing triple option to the other side. He shows that, even fakes the pitch, flips his hips with a little crow hop, boom. It wasn't a perfect throw. It didn't have to be. It was one of those throws when you watch Jalen, I'm sure what he was thinking is just don't overthrow this thing. So he threw it at him. Running back stops. LaShawn Williams stops, still manages, boom, taking it in the end zone. Great call, great play. we talked about the fact they didn't target their running backs much. We talked about that in our preview last week. And they didn't target them much against us, but they made the one call that really counted at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's something you got to watch the tape. You got to learn from it. There's ways you can get better at how you defended that. But also, that was a high-level offensive call by Kansas. That was a pretty salty play.
Jed, it was a salty play, and it really, I'm not going to say it only works, but having Jayden Daniels sell the fake of getting out there, because, I mean, if you really watch that play, he moves that entire defense to the left side of the field.
Watch the backers.
They're running triple option, bro. This is it.
Yep.
I mean, and I was like, oh, man. I literally, my eye just slipped to the bottom of the field because I'm like, oh, it's wide open, dude. Where's the back? There he goes. I mean, it was a beautiful play.
I mean, Jamori tried to collision him, but the way it unfolded, it was just, it was a beautiful play. And the kid, if he tries to strain that thing and stretch it outside B gap,
he don't make it.
We always had rules when we had hot routes. When our backs were hot, we had 5-man protection, and I had to know that my fullback was hot. My single back was hot. We would always tell them, like on sneak routes and things of that nature. And you ran a bunch of sneak routes. We had F sneak call. The fullback was hot if the backer came. So in other words, he wasn't a check release. He didn't stay in to block the backer. We accounted for that blitzing backer by him getting out fast. And we'd always say, like, in a perfect world, you run that sneak route through the B gap because it does kind of hide you, just like it hid LaShawn Williams there. But hey, if it's getting messy, the most important thing you got to do because you're hot is get out. I don't care if you go outside the tackle or not. If you can get through B gap, great, because it hides you. But no matter what you do, get out there because I'm about to get smacked by an unblocked blitzer, so I got to get the ball to you. But anytime you sneak through B gap, it kind of hides you. And that's what LaShawn Williams was able to do there. Just, it was impressive.
Yeah, there was a few times where I saw Jalen start to scramble, and I was thinking, oh, no, I had Jed's voice in my head thinking, oh, my goodness, how are they going to hold up in coverage for this long? There was actually a couple times where they held up, and they either made a play on the ball or just there's nothing there for Jalen. But then there's also probably 2 or 3 throws that he had, and you just completely missed them. Would have been wide open, big gains, and he just missed them. He was not.
He had a couple on the run that he overthrew, and
it just wasn't as sharp throwing it probably as he has been. But
he was 12 of 24. He was 50%. He was 50%, and like I said, we went after him half the time. Zach Alley did from a pressure standpoint. But the thing that surprised me was they came after Nico half the time. But, yeah, we talked in the preview last week, and I said this in the pregame show at the stadium. When he escapes on a scramble, on average, his time to throw is 7.57 seconds.
That's
in recess, it was 5 Mississippi, right? So during the broadcast, I kept telling Tony, I was like, hey, that looks like a 4 Mississippi to me. Oh, that was a 5 Mississippi. That was a full 5 Mississippi. He had all day on some of those things, and we still held up. But,
yeah, it was quite the day. Unfortunately, not for the Mountaineers, but they'll get that opportunity back at home this weekend against Utah, the 1965 throwback game. Again, make sure you stop at the Book Exchange this weekend. Use the In the Gun 20 code. Get that 20% off on that fine-looking gear, the baby blue. Jed, have you picked out your outfit for Saturday yet?
Like I said, I got my eye on a baby blue shirt.
I got mine on a few.
But I do like those. I do like those baby blue polos with the old logo. That's what I got my eye on.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So stay with us throughout the week. We're going to have barbecue in the beer truck on Tuesday. I think, what do we got this week, Owen? Big barbecue wings, is that what's on the menu?
I think baked beans was last week.
Yeah.
We got wings this week.
So there you go. Barbecuing with the beer truck on Tuesday.
Who would win in a wing eating contest between Owen and Andy Reid?
Ooh.
Teaser.
Interesting.
And back in my heyday, it would have been close, but I don't know about now. I mean, I did crush a good bit at Fishbowl the other week, but I don't know.
Andy might have you beat now. We'll have to see. So that'll be coming Tuesday. Obviously, the preview on Thursday, and then as always, we'll close out the week with Phil Steele on Friday, with Jed and I breaking down the best matchups in college football, and of course, West Virginia and Utah. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page at In the Gun Podcast. And as always, be in ear and tell an ear about your favorite new WVU football podcast. Thank you again for watching. Take care, everybody. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.